What would you do if everything you thought you knew about your life turned out to be incomplete? Ryan Mitchell was about to discover that some secrets are kept not out of cruelty, but out of love. And so, before we begin this incredible journey, type "love" in the comments and tell us where you're watching from. Let's see how far this story reaches. The hospital cafeteria was nearly empty at 4 a.m., fluorescent lights humming overhead as Ryan sat across from Margaret Walsh, the woman who'd been his second mother once, who'd vanished from his life after Sarah's funeral, who'd apparently been raising his daughter in secret. Lily, his daughter, he was still processing that, slept in his arms, finally peaceful after hours of crying. Claire dozed in the chair beside him, exhausted from their ordeal. Margaret looked older than he remembered, her silver hair pulled back, her eyes carrying the weight of years of secrets. The emergency room doctors had checked both girls thoroughly. Mild hypothermia for Claire, they'd said. Nothing serious, but they wanted to monitor her for a few hours. Lily was perfectly healthy, just upset and overstimulated. Standard procedure for found children, they'd explained, even after Ryan had tried to explain the impossible situation. Found children. The phrase had made Ryan's stomach turn. His daughter wasn't lost. She was hidden. A nurse had brought them coffee and crackers, eyeing the situation with professional curiosity. Ryan knew how it must look. A man in a $3,000 suit, drenched from rain, holding a baby he claimed was his daughter, while an elderly woman watched with tears streaming down her face. The nurse had probably alerted social services. He'd deal with that later. Right now, he needed answers. "Start from the beginning," Ryan said, his voice low but firm, "and don't leave anything out." Margaret folded her hands on the table. When Sarah was 6 months pregnant, this was 15 months ago, she went in for a routine ultrasound. Everything seemed fine at first, but then the doctors noticed something concerning. Ryan's chest tightened. What? The baby, Lily, was smaller than she should have been, growth restriction. The doctor said it was manageable, but Sarah would need close monitoring. She was cautious, careful. But then, Margaret's voice broke. The accident happened when she was 7.5 months along. Why didn't Sarah tell me? The betrayal cut deep, mixing with his grief in a toxic combination. I knew she was pregnant. We were excited. Why didn't she tell me there were problems? She wanted to, Margaret said quickly. God, Ryan, she wanted to so badly, but you were in the middle of that massive corporate merger. You were working 18-hour days. She saw how stressed you were, how the pressure was affecting you. She didn't want to add to your burden with a high-risk pregnancy that might end in heartbreak. That wasn't her choice to make. Ryan's jaw clenched. I had a right to know. I told her the same thing. Margaret's voice cracked. We fought about it constantly. But Sarah was stubborn. She said she'd tell you after the merger was complete, after things settled down. But then, the car accident. Ryan closed his eyes, remembering the call from the hospital. Sarah's car had been hit by a drunk driver running a red light. She'd been 7.5 months pregnant. Claire was 6 years old at home with the nanny when it happened. The doctors had fought for hours to save both Sarah and the baby. He could still see her in that hospital bed, pale and broken, machines beeping frantically around her. They'd let him hold her hand as she slipped away. She'd whispered, "Take care of our baby. Promise me. Both our girls." He'd thought she meant Claire and the unborn child. He'd had no idea what she really meant. "I held her hand when she died," Ryan whispered. "She said, 'Both our girls,' and I thought she was delirious, talking about Claire and the baby she was carrying. But she meant Claire and Lily," Margaret finished softly. "Yes. She held Claire once," Ryan whispered, "for 3 minutes. Then she was gone." "She held on," Margaret continued, tears streaming down her weathered cheeks. "The doctors performed an emergency C-section while Sarah was still alive, but barely. They delivered Lily, So tiny, Ryan, just over 2 pounds. Sarah got to see her for maybe 30 seconds before. She couldn't finish. Ryan looked down at the healthy, beautiful baby in his arms. Lily had round cheeks, long eyelashes, and tiny fingers that gripped his shirt in sleep. But she survived. She fought like a warrior, like her mother. I stayed with her every day in the NICU for 4 months, and when Sarah's will was read, I saw the letter she'd left for me. She'd written it 2 days before she died. Margaret pulled a worn envelope from her purse, the paper soft from being handled countless times. She said if anything happened to her, if the baby somehow survived, I was to raise her until I was certain you were ready. Can I see it? Ryan's voice was barely audible. Margaret hesitated, then handed over the envelope. Ryan recognized Sarah's handwriting immediately, the looping M of Margaret's name, the slight slant she always had when writing quickly. His hands trembled as he pulled out the single page. Dear Mom, if you're reading this, something went wrong. I'm writing this at 2 a.m. because I can't sleep, and I have this awful feeling I need to get everything down. The doctors say the baby's doing better, but she's still so small, still at risk. If I don't make it, and she does, please keep her safe. Keep her hidden from Ryan until he's ready. I know that sounds cruel, but you know him, Mom. He's barely present with Claire as it is, always at the office, always chasing the next deal. He'll drown in guilt if he loses me. He'll blame himself for every minute he spent at work instead of with me. He'll look at this baby and see all his failures instead of this miracle. Give him time to grieve, time to heal, time to find himself again. And when you see the man I fell in love with, the one who laughs at bad jokes and dances in the kitchen and shows up when it matters, then tell him. Show him his daughter. Give him the chance to be the father I know he can be. Tell him I love him. Tell him to be happy. Tell him our girls, both Claire and this little one, need him whole, not broken. All my love. Sarah Ryan's tears fell on the paper, smudging ink that had already been stained by Margaret's tears years ago. She knew. She knew she might not make it. Mother's intuition, maybe, Margaret said softly. Or just Sarah being prepared for every possibility. She was always like that. Ready! Ryan's voice hardened. Ready for what? Ready to be a father to a child you'd have to explain. Ready to handle the questions, the grief, the guilt. Margaret met his eyes. Sarah knew you, Ryan. She knew you'd blame yourself for not knowing, for not being there. She didn't want Lily to grow up with a father consumed by guilt. So you decided to keep my daughter from me for a year? The anger rose, hot and sharp. I was going to tell you, Margaret said firmly. Today, actually. That's why Lily was in the park. I arranged for Claire to find her during her lunch break. Her teacher is my neighbor. She helped coordinate it. I wanted to see how you'd react. If you'd show up, if you'd care. Ryan stared at her, disbelief flooding through him. You tested me? You put both of my daughters at risk in a rainstorm to test me? They were never at risk, Margaret said quickly. I was across the street the entire time watching. I had my phone ready to call 911 if needed. The carrier had a waterproof cover. I timed it perfectly with Claire's lunch period. Her teacher made sure she walked the route past the fountain, and I tracked your phone. I knew exactly when you left your office building and how long it would take you to arrive. You tracked my phone. Sarah gave me access years ago for emergencies. I never removed it. Margaret's voice was steady, despite Ryan's rising anger. I had to know, Ryan. I had to know if you'd drop everything for a child in need, if you'd brave the rain and the traffic and the unknown. Because raising a child isn't about planning and logistics. It's about showing up in the messy, inconvenient moments. I could have you arrested, Ryan said coldly. Child endangerment, kidnapping, take your pick. You could, Margaret agreed. And you'd be within your rights. But then you'd have to explain to a judge why I've been Lily's sole caregiver for a year while you were listed as her father on her birth certificate. Why I have documentation of every doctor visit, every milestone, every expense. Why Sarah's will explicitly gave me guardianship rights. Ryan's jaw worked. You planned this. All of it. Sarah planned it, Margaret corrected. I'm just following her instructions, and her instincts were right. You needed time. You needed to heal. You needed to become someone capable of putting a child before a board meeting. She met his eyes steadily. 3 months ago, if I'd called you with a family emergency, would you have left work? Ryan wanted to say yes, but the honest answer was no. 3 months ago, he'd been in the middle of acquiring a tech startup. He'd worked through his father's funeral video call. He'd missed Claire's parent-teacher conference because of a client dinner. He'd become exactly the kind of man Sarah had feared. Successful, powerful, and empty. I had to know if you were the man Sarah fell in love with, or if you'd become the workaholic who'd lost himself in corporate deals. Margaret's voice softened. When I heard you dropped everything, traced Claire's phone, ran into the rain without hesitation, I knew you'd found your way back. You had no right. I had every right. Margaret's voice rose, then softened when Lily stirred. I lost my daughter 15 months ago. I raised her baby in secret, loving her, caring for her, while watching you from afar throw yourself into work to avoid your grief. Do you know how many times I almost called? How many times I drove to your office building and sat in the parking lot with Lily in the back seat, trying to find the courage? Ryan felt tears burning his eyes. I was barely functioning, Margaret. Losing Sarah destroyed me. Claire was only 6 years old. I had to hold it together for her. If I'd known about Lily, if I'd had another baby to care for in that state, would you have been ready? Or would you have been so consumed with guilt and what-ifs that you couldn't see the miracle in front of you? You were already failing Claire, missing her school plays, forgetting parent-teacher conferences, letting nannies raise her while you hid in your office. The words hit like physical blows because they were true. After Sarah died, Ryan had become a ghost in his own life. Claire had needed him, and he'd given her money, expensive toys, the best schools, everything except himself. The question hung in the air between them. Ryan looked down at Lily, really looked at her. She had Sarah's nose, her delicate features. But when she stirred and opened her eyes briefly, they were Mitchell eyes. His eyes. I've missed a year of her life, he said quietly, and I've missed 6 years of Claire's real childhood, hiding in my grief. But you have the rest of it ahead of you. Margaret reached across the table and placed her hand over his. Sarah's last words to me were about both girls. She said, tell him when he's ready. Tell him he has not 1 daughter, but 2. Tell him I love him. Tell him to be happy. So I'm telling you now, Ryan, it's time to be happy. Claire stirred beside them, her eyes fluttering open. Daddy, is the baby okay? Ryan smiled through his tears and shifted so Claire could see Lily better. She's perfect, sweetheart. And I have something incredible to tell you. This is your sister, your baby sister. Claire's eyes went wide. My sister. But how? I thought Mommy died when she was pregnant. She did, sweetheart. But the doctors saved the baby, your little sister, Lily. And Grandma has been taking care of her, waiting for the right time to tell us. So I have a sister. Claire's voice was filled with wonder. A real sister. As dawn began to break through the hospital windows, Ryan sat with his mother-in-law, his 2 daughters, both of them, and felt something he hadn't felt in 4 years. Hope. The kind of hope that comes from second chances, from hidden miracles, from love that never truly dies. But there was still so much to understand, so many questions about the year he'd lost, about who Lily had become in Margaret's care, about how to blend their lives together. The journey was just beginning, and for the first time since Sarah's death, Ryan Mitchell was ready to take it. 3 days later, Ryan stood in Margaret's modest home in Queens, a world away from his sleek Manhattan apartment. The house was small but warm, filled with evidence of life and love. Photos covered the walls. Sarah as a child, Sarah's wedding day, Sarah pregnant with Claire 7 years ago, Sarah pregnant with Lily 15 months ago, and dozens of new photos. Lily's first smile, Lily learning to sit up, Lily's first tooth, a year of moments he'd never witnessed. Each photo was dated and labelled in Margaret's neat handwriting. First time holding her head up, June 15th. First giggle, July 3rd. First time sleeping through the night, September 20th. Ryan traced his fingers over each one, his chest tightening with every milestone he'd missed. There was a photo of Lily in a tiny Halloween costume, a ladybug complete with spots and antennae. Another of her with a Christmas hat, sitting in front of a small tree, a birthday cake shaped like a flower with a single candle. Margaret had celebrated everything, documented everything, loved her through everything. In the corner sat a bookshelf filled with children's books, each worn from repeated readings. A basket of toys, soft blocks, rattles, a stuffed rabbit with one ear chewed to tatters, a high chair with a cushion covered in stains from countless meals. This wasn't just a house where Lily visited. This was her home. I documented everything, Margaret said softly from behind him. She held Lily on her hip, the baby reaching for Ryan with chubby arms, but still uncertain about this man who suddenly appeared in her life. I always knew I'd give them to you someday. Ryan took Lily gently, and she studied his face with serious eyes. Claire sat on the floor playing with blocks, trying to coax her twin sister to play with her. It was surreal watching them together, identical and yet strangers. "Tell me about her," Ryan said, sitting on the worn couch. "Tell me everything." Margaret smiled, settling into her rocking chair, the same chair she'd rocked Sarah in decades ago. She's stubborn like Sarah, determined. She started trying to walk at 9 months, kept pulling herself up and falling down and getting right back up. She loves music, classical music especially. Chopin puts her right to sleep. Sarah loved Chopin, Ryan murmured. I know. I played it for her when I was pregnant with Sarah. Margaret's eyes grew distant. Lily also has this thing she does when she's thinking hard. She wrinkles her nose, just like Sarah did. As if on cue, Lily wrinkled her tiny nose while examining Ryan's watch. His heart clenched. She's afraid of dogs, but loves cats. She can say mama and more and no. That's her favorite word lately. Margaret chuckled. She's curious about everything. Yesterday she spent 20 minutes studying a butterfly in the garden, just watching it, absolutely fascinated. When it flew away, she cried like her heart was breaking. What else does she say? Ryan asked, hungry for every detail. Up when she wants to be held. Ba for bottle, though we're transitioning to sippy cups now. Book, which sounds more like ba, but I know what she means. Margaret's voice was full of affection. Last week she said something that sounded like love you, but I might have been imagining it. Ryan felt a sharp pain in his chest. Her first, I love you, and he hadn't been there to hear it. She has a routine, Margaret continued. Wake up at 6:30, bottle first thing, breakfast at 7:30. She likes scrambled eggs and toast cut into triangles, not squares. Mid-morning nap around 10, lunch at noon, afternoon playtime. She loves the swing at the park. Another nap at 3, dinner at 6. Bath at 7, story time at 7:30, bed by 8. Ryan pulled out his phone and started taking notes. What about allergies, sensitivities? None that we've found. She had a bit of reflux in the early months, but she grew out of it. No food allergies tested yet, but we've been careful with introduction. She's had all her vaccinations. I have the records for you. Margaret paused. She does have Sarah's sensitive skin, though. I have to use fragrance-free detergent and gentle soap or she gets a rash. What's her favorite toy? That rabbit. Margaret pointed to the worn, stuffed animal. I gave it to her when she was 3 months old. She won't sleep without it. Ryan watched Lily grab at his tie, her tiny fingers surprisingly strong. What about medical stuff? Is she healthy, after such a rough start? Completely healthy now, Margaret assured him. We had follow-ups every month for the first 6 months. Her lungs were the biggest concern, but she's perfect. No developmental delays, no lasting effects from the premature birth. It's honestly miraculous. Does she have the same pediatrician as Claire did? Yes, Dr. Harrison. He's been wonderful. He knows the whole story. Ryan nodded, making mental notes. There was so much to coordinate, so much to plan. I'll need to add her to my insurance. Update my will. Make sure both girls are provided for equally. Ryan, Margaret's voice was gentle but firm. You don't need to figure everything out today. Yes, I do. He met her eyes. I've already lost a year. I can't afford to waste any more time. You didn't lose it. It happened the way it needed to happen. Margaret leaned forward. But now comes the hard part. Building a relationship with a 1-year-old who doesn't know you. Helping Claire adjust to suddenly having a twin. Navigating the guilt and the grief while being present for both girls. I can handle it. Can you? Margaret's gaze was searching. Because I need to know you won't disappear into work again when it gets hard. I need to know you'll show up. Really show up. Ryan bristled. I'm not that man anymore. Prove it, Margaret said simply. I want joint custody for now. I'll bring Lily to your place 3 days a week. You come here the other days. We transition slowly over months until she's comfortable, until you've learned how to be her father, not just her provider. She's my daughter. And she's been mine for a year, Margaret interrupted. I love her, Ryan. I won't let her be confused or scared or feel abandoned just because biology says you're her father. You have to earn that title, like I did. The words stung, but Ryan recognized the truth in them. He looked at Lily, who'd stuck his tie in her mouth and was gumming it contentedly. Okay, we'll do it your way. For now. Good. Margaret relaxed. Now let me teach you how to make her favorite lunch. She's particular about her bananas. They have to be just ripe enough, not too brown. As Margaret walked Ryan through Lily's routines, preferences and quirks, Claire wandered over with a stuffed elephant. Lily, look, it's Mr. Trunk. He's Daddy's favorite elephant to give hugs. Lily's face lit up at the elephant, reaching for it with delighted squeals. Claire helped her hold it, and for the first time, Ryan saw his daughters interact as sisters. The bond was instant, instinctive, genetic. She likes you, Margaret observed. Lily's usually shy with new people. She's not new people, Claire said matter-of-factly. She's family. Ryan's throat tightened. Out of the mouths of babes, his phone buzzed, his assistant calling for the 3rd time that day. Ryan silenced it. Work could wait. For the first time in 4 years, something was more important than the next deal, the next meeting, the next acquisition. Someone was more important. 2 someones, actually. Margaret, Ryan said carefully, I want to thank you for everything you did, for keeping her safe, for loving her when I didn't even know she existed. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. You don't need to thank me. She's Sarah's daughter. That's all the reason I needed. But I do need to thank you. And I need to apologize for disappearing after the funeral. I was drowning in grief, and I shut everyone out, including you. I understood, Margaret said softly. I was drowning too. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the girls play together. Lily babbled something that might have been words, and Claire responded as if she understood perfectly. Sarah would be proud of you, Ryan said suddenly, for protecting Lily, for making the hard calls. She'd be proud of you too, Margaret replied, for showing up, for putting your daughters first, for being willing to fight your way back to the man you were. Ryan wasn't sure he agreed, but he appreciated the sentiment. He had so far to go, so much to learn about Lily, about being a single father to twins, about balancing work and family in a way he'd never managed before. But as Lily reached up and patted his cheek with her tiny hand, her eyes meeting his with trust beginning to form, Ryan felt something shift, a purpose beyond profit margins, a reason beyond revenue, a love that demanded everything and gave back infinitely more. "I won't let her down," he whispered to Margaret. "I won't let either of them down." "I know," Margaret said, "because Sarah knew. She saw the man you'd become, even when you couldn't see it yourself." The afternoon stretched into evening, filled with diaper changes and snacks and stories. Ryan fumbled through most of it, grateful for Margaret's patient instruction. Claire helped eagerly, excited to be the big sister, even though they were technically the same age. When it was time to leave, Lily cried, reaching for Margaret with desperate arms. It broke Ryan's heart, but he understood. He was still a stranger. This was still Margaret's home. He had to earn Lily's trust, one day at a time. "We'll be back tomorrow," Ryan promised, kissing Lily's forehead, "and the day after that, and every day until you know I'm not going anywhere." As they drove back to Manhattan, Claire chatted excitedly about her sister. "Did you see how she smiled at me, Daddy? I think she really likes me. Can we bring her to my school? Can she sleep over?" "When can we?" "Soon, sweetheart," Ryan said, his heart full. "All of that, soon." But as he glanced in the rearview mirror at Claire's excited face, he felt the weight of responsibility. 2 daughters depending on him, 2 miracles that demanded he be better than he'd been, stronger, more present, more whole. For the first time in 4 years, Ryan Mitchell had a reason to be whole again, and he wasn't going to waste it. The Mitchell and Associates boardroom fell silent when Ryan walked in 30 minutes late. 12 executives sat around the massive glass table, their expressions ranging from confusion to irritation. Ryan had never been late to a board meeting, ever. In 7 years of running the company, he'd been early to every single meeting, often arriving before the sun rose. His assistant had sent 3 increasingly frantic texts. The merger team had called twice. Victoria had left a voicemail asking if everything was okay. None of them could have guessed that Ryan had spent the last 30 minutes at Margaret's house, teaching Lily to stack blocks, while Claire offered enthusiastic commentary. "Gentlemen, ladies," Ryan said, not bothering with an apology. He set his briefcase down with a decisive thud. "I'm restructuring my role effective immediately. Victoria will assume day-to-day operations as acting CEO while I transition to executive chairman." The room erupted, papers rustled, someone dropped their pen. Victoria Chen, his second-in-command for 5 years, looked as shocked as everyone else. She'd been preparing for a presentation on the TechBridge acquisition, not a promotion. "Ryan, what are you talking about?" Marcus from Acquisitions demanded, his face reddening. "We're in the middle of the TechBridge merger." "Which Victoria is perfectly capable of handling," Ryan interrupted calmly. "She's negotiated 3 successful mergers in the past 2 years. She knows our strategy inside and out. She's ready." "A day, but you're the face of this company," Jennifer from marketing protested. Our clients expect results, which Victoria will deliver." Ryan's voice carried the same authority it always had, but something in his demeanor had shifted. He seemed simultaneously more relaxed and more focused. "I'll still be involved in major strategic decisions, board meetings, and key client relationships, but I need to reduce my operational hours by 60%. 60%? Marcus looked like Ryan had announced he was joining a circus. "That's impossible. The company needs you. My daughters need me more." Ryan's voice was firm. "I've spent 4 years building this company at the expense of everything else. That ends now. He outlined his plan with the same precision he used in corporate strategies. Victoria would handle daily operations. Department heads would have more autonomy. Ryan would work from home 3 days a week, come to the office for critical meetings only, and be completely unavailable between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. for family time. No calls, no emails, no emergencies unless someone is literally dying, Ryan said. And I mean literally, not figuratively. Victoria found her voice. Ryan, I'm honored, but are you sure? This is your company, your legacy. My daughters are my legacy. Ryan met her eyes. This is just business. They're everything. The meeting continued for another hour, working through logistics and transitions. Some executives adapted quickly. Others clearly thought Ryan had lost his mind. He didn't care. For the first time in his professional life, he truly didn't care what they thought. When he finally left the office at 4:30 p.m., his assistant nearly fell off her chair. Mr. Mitchell, did you forget something? No, Jennifer, I'm leaving. I'll be at Margaret Walsh's address if anything critical comes up. He paused. Actually, unless it's life-threatening, don't call. The drive to Queens felt different in afternoon traffic. Lighter somehow. His phone buzzed constantly. Emails, texts, missed calls. Ryan silenced all of it. He'd answer them tomorrow, or maybe the day after. Margaret opened the door with Lily on her hip. You're early. I'm on time, Ryan corrected. Work is what's running late. He saw approval flash in Margaret's eyes. She handed Lily over, and this time the baby didn't cry. She studied Ryan's face curiously, then grabbed his glasses and tried to eat them. Progress, Margaret said with a smile. Claire burst through the door behind him. Is Lily here? Can we play? The afternoon became a blur of chaos and joy. Claire showed Lily her favorite books. Lily knocked over a tower of blocks and giggled hysterically. Ryan changed his first diaper, badly, according to Margaret, and learned that Lily liked to eat banana slices, but only if they were cut into circles, not strips. She's particular, Margaret noted as Lily rejected a strip-cut banana with an offended expression. She gets that from her mother, Ryan said. Sarah once sent back a salad because the dressing was on the wrong side. They laughed, and it felt good. Healing, to remember Sarah with joy instead of just grief. Dinner was simple. Pasta and marinara, which Lily wore more than 8. Bath time was an adventure involving rubber ducks, way too much water on the floor, and Lily's delighted screams. By 7:30, both girls were exhausted. Story time, Margaret announced. Ryan, you read to Claire. I'll handle Lily. Yeah, they gathered in the small living room. Claire curled against Ryan's side, while Margaret rocked Lily nearby. Ryan read from Where the Wild Things Are, doing all the voices like he used to when Claire was younger. He'd forgotten how much she loved the monster voices. Halfway through, Lily wiggled out of Margaret's arms and toddled over. She was walking already. Ryan had missed her first steps, but he was here for these steps. She climbed onto the couch and squeezed between Ryan and Claire, looking up at him expectantly. Ryan's breath caught. Want to hear the story too, Lily? She patted the book. Mo. More, Margaret translated, tears in her eyes. She wants more. Ryan continued reading, one arm around each daughter, his heart so full it physically ached. This was what Sarah wanted him to find, not just his daughters, but himself. The part of him that had died with her, now resurrected in their children. When the story ended, Lily yawned and laid her head against Ryan's chest. Just rested there, trusting and peaceful. Claire did the same on his other side. I wish Mommy could see this, Claire whispered. She can, sweetheart, Ryan said, his voice rough with emotion. She knows. Margaret quietly took a photo with her phone. Sarah always said you'd be an amazing father if you could just slow down long enough to try. She was right about a lot of things, Ryan admitted. I should have listened more. You're listening now. That's what matters. They stayed like that until both girls fell asleep, Lily snoring softly, Claire's hand clutching Ryan's shirt. Margaret helped transfer them to her bedroom, tucking them into the double bed she'd set up for nights when Claire stayed over. Standing in the doorway, watching his daughters sleep side by side, Ryan felt a shift in his soul, a recalibration of priorities, a clear understanding of what actually mattered. Claire looked so grown up at 7, her features already losing that baby softness. Lily, at 1 year old, was still so small, so fragile-looking despite her healthy weight now. Ryan noticed the protective way Claire had positioned herself, even in sleep, closer to her baby sister, an arm stretched out as if to shield Lily. They'd only known each other for 3 days, but Claire had embraced her role as big sister with fierce determination. "I want to speed up the custody transition," he said quietly to Margaret. She stiffened. "Ryan, not because I want to take her away from you," he clarified quickly, turning to face her, "but because I want us to be a family. All of us. I want you to move into my building. There's a vacant unit on my floor. The Hendersons just moved to Boston. 3 bedrooms, morning light, view of the park. I'll buy it. You'll be close enough to see Lily every day, but she'll have a space with her sister, with me, with all of us." Margaret's eyes widened. "Ryan, that's incredibly generous, but those units cost—" "I don't care what they cost." His voice was firm. "Money isn't the issue. Family is. You're her grandmother. You've been her mother for a year. I'm not trying to erase that or replace you. I'm trying to build something bigger, something Sarah would want. What about your life? Your privacy? Having your mother-in-law down the hall?" Ryan actually smiled at that. "What privacy? I work 80 hours a week and come home to an empty apartment with furniture I don't remember buying, and art I've never really looked at. That's not living. This," he gestured to the small, cluttered, love-filled house, "this is living. Messy dinners and story time and 2 little girls who need their grandmother as much as they need their father." Margaret dabbed at her eyes with a tissue she pulled from her cardigan pocket. "Sarah always said you made big gestures when you were sure about something. When you proposed, you rented out the entire restaurant. When she said she wanted a garden wedding, you bought a property with gardens just for the ceremony. I'm sure about this. About them, about us being a family." Ryan glanced back at the sleeping girls. "I can't get back the year I lost, but I can make sure we don't lose any more time, and I can't do this alone, Margaret. I need you." "They need you." "Then yes," Margaret said softly. "Yes, we'll make it work." They discussed logistics late into the night, timelines, schooling, medical care, legal guardianship papers. Ryan would hire the best family lawyer to ensure everything was properly documented. Margaret would maintain joint custody until Lily was older and fully bonded with Ryan. They'd coordinate schedules, share responsibilities, build a support system. Ryan pulled out his tablet and started making lists. "We'll need to find a good daycare or nanny for Lily while Claire's at school. They're at different stages right now. And we'll need to convert one of my spare bedrooms into a proper nursery, not just a guest room with a crib, but a real space for her. Maybe paint a mural. What does she like? Animals, stars." "She loves the moon," Margaret said with a soft smile. "Every night when I put her down, we look out the window and find the moon. Even when it's just a sliver, she gets so excited. Then we'll paint a moon," Ryan decided. "And stars. Maybe a night sky theme for both rooms, so they match, so they know they're connected." He typed rapidly. "And I'll need to childproof the apartment. Safety gates, outlet covers, cabinet locks." Claire's past that stage, but Lily's right in the thick of it. "She's a climber," Margaret warned. "Last week she figured out how to push a chair to the counter and nearly gave me a heart attack when I found her reaching for the cookie jar." Ryan made another note. "And I'll need to learn her schedule cold. When does she nap? What does she eat? What makes her laugh?" He looked up at Margaret. I want to know everything, every little detail, every preference. I've already missed so much. I need to catch up. But underneath all the planning was a simple truth. They were creating a family from broken pieces, honoring Sarah's memory by loving the daughters she'd left behind, choosing each other when it would have been easier to stay separate. Margaret watched Ryan work, saw the intensity she remembered from when he'd courted Sarah. Back then, he'd been a young associate at a law firm, working brutal hours but always making time for Sarah, always showing up, always present, always. Somewhere along the way, after Sarah's death, he'd lost that balance. But watching him now, she saw glimpses of the old Ryan emerging, the man who fought for what mattered. At midnight, Ryan finally prepared to leave. He checked on the girls one more time, kissing each forehead gently. "I'll be back tomorrow," he whispered, "and every day after." "I promise," Claire stirred. "Love you, Daddy." "Love you too, sweetheart." Lily remained deeply asleep, her tiny hand clutching her stuffed rabbit. Ryan stared at them, memorizing the moment. In 3 days, his entire world had transformed. From grief-stricken workaholic to father of 2, truly present for the first time in over a year. From empty apartment to growing family. As he drove home through quiet streets, Ryan didn't check his phone, didn't think about work, didn't calculate profit margins or strategize market positions. Instead, he thought about circle-cut bananas and monster voices and the weight of a 1-year-old sleeping against his chest. He thought about Sarah's letter, now safely tucked in his wallet next to a photo of her, about how she'd known him well enough to predict his grief would consume him, about how she'd trusted Margaret to know when the time was right, about how she'd orchestrated all of this from beyond the grave, giving him time to heal before handing him a reason to truly live again. The city lights blurred past as Ryan drove, but he barely noticed them. His mind was already racing ahead to tomorrow. He'd call the real estate agent about the Hendersons' apartment first thing. Then the family lawyer to start custody paperwork. Then a contractor about converting the spare bedroom. He'd need to research preschools, interview nannies, maybe hire someone to help Margaret with the transition. But more than that, he needed to simply be present, to show up. To learn Lily's favorite songs and how she liked her toast cut and what made her giggle. To hold Claire's hand and reassure her that gaining a sister didn't mean losing her father. To prove to all of them, to Sarah's memory, that he was capable of being what they needed. Tomorrow he'd move forward with the apartment purchase. Start coordinating the move, research preschools that could accommodate both girls. There was so much to do, but tonight, Ryan Mitchell simply drove home with a smile on his face and hope in his heart. Because somewhere between a rainy phone call and a story about wild things, he'd found his way back to the man Sarah had fallen in love with. The man who understood that the greatest success wasn't measured in dollars or deals, but in moments like these. In second chances and hidden miracles. In love that survives death and family that finds a way. In a 7-year-old who deserved her father back, and a 1-year-old who deserved to know her father at all. He was finally ready to be the father his daughters deserved, and he was never looking back. As he pulled into his building's parking garage, Ryan sat in the car for a moment, letting the enormity of the past few days wash over him. 3 days ago, he'd been a workaholic widower with 1 daughter he barely saw. Now he had 2 daughters, a mother-in-law who was becoming family again, and a future that actually meant something beyond the next quarterly earnings report. His phone buzzed one last time, Victoria, confirming she'd handled the morning meeting. Ryan smiled and typed a simple response. "Thank you. I trust you completely." And then he turned off his phone and went upstairs to his empty apartment that wouldn't be empty for much longer. To plan, to dream, to become the man Sarah had always believed he could be. 2 weeks had passed since the rain-soaked revelation in Washington Square Park, and Ryan Mitchell's life had transformed beyond recognition. His penthouse apartment, once a sterile showcase of expensive furniture and rarely used space, now looked like a tornado had swept through a toy store. Colorful blocks scattered across the marble floor. A pink high chair sat at the dining table that used to host business dinners. Sippy cups lined the kitchen counter. And the sound of children's laughter, actual laughter, echoed through rooms that had been silent for years. Ryan sat cross-legged on the living room floor, trying to follow Margaret's instructions on how to properly fasten a diaper. Lily squirmed on the changing mat, more interested in grabbing his nose than cooperating. "No, Ryan, you need to make sure it's snug here," Margaret demonstrated, adjusting the tabs. "Otherwise you'll have a leak situation, and trust me, you don't want that." "I run a multi-million-dollar company," Ryan muttered. "I've negotiated deals with Fortune 500 executives. How is diaper fastening this complicated?" "Because those executives didn't try to kick you in the face while you were negotiating," Margaret said with a laugh, as Lily's foot connected with Ryan's chin. Claire sat nearby, supposedly doing homework, but mostly watching her father struggle with obvious amusement. "Daddy, you're doing it wrong again. The tabs go in the front, not the sides." "Ah, I know where the tabs go, sweetheart." "Then why is it backwards?" Ryan looked down and realized his 7-year-old was right. He'd somehow managed to put the diaper on inside out. Lily seemed to find this hilarious, dissolving into giggles that made Ryan's frustration evaporate instantly. That laugh, pure joy, completely uninhibited, was worth 1,000 backwards diapers. "Okay, take 3, he said, starting over while Lily grabbed fistfuls of his hair. Margaret watched from the couch, her expression a mixture of amusement and approval. The past 2 weeks had been intensive training for Ryan, a crash course in toddler care that made his MBA program look easy in comparison. He'd learned about nap-time rituals, the specific temperature Lily preferred her milk, and the exact way to cut her grapes, quarters, not halves, and definitely not whole because choking hazards. He'd also learned that Lily was an early riser who woke up singing nonsensical songs at 6 a.m., that she had strong opinions about her clothing choices. The purple shirt was acceptable, the pink one was apparently offensive, that she would eat carrots, but only if they were raw, never cooked, and that she had inherited Sarah's stubborn streak in full force. There, Ryan finally managed to secure the diaper correctly. Success. "Only took you 15 minutes, Claire teased. "Progress is progress," Margaret said diplomatically. 2 weeks ago, he didn't even know which end was the front. Ryan lifted Lily and held her up, making airplane sounds as she squealed with delight. "Who's the little troublemaker? Who makes Daddy work for it?" "Me!" Lily shouted, one of her favorite new words. "Me, me, me." The doorbell rang, and Ryan's expression shifted. "That'll be the contractor." He handed Lily to Margaret. "He's here about converting the second bedroom into a proper nursery." A tall man in his 50s entered, carrying a tablet and a measuring tape. Ryan had hired Thomas Anderson based on Margaret's recommendation. He'd renovated her friend's house years ago and apparently specialized in child-friendly spaces. "Mr. Mitchell," Thomas greeted, shaking his hand. "Margaret's told me about your situation. Congratulations on your daughter." "Daughters," Ryan corrected automatically, gesturing to both girls. "Claire and Lily. Though Claire's room is already established, it's Lily's space we need to create." They walked through the apartment as Thomas took measurements and notes. Ryan explained his vision, a room that felt warm and safe, not the cold, modern aesthetic that dominated the rest of the penthouse. He wanted a mural of a night sky with the moon and stars, per Margaret's suggestion, built-in shelves for books and toys. Soft carpet instead of the hardwood floors, blackout curtains for nap time, a rocking chair where he could read stories. "I want her to feel like this is her home," Ryan said quietly. "Not just a place she visits, Thomas nodded, tapping notes into his tablet. I can have the basic construction done in 2 weeks, painting and details in another week after that. Total timeline about a month. Can you do it faster? Ryan asked immediately. Ryan, Margaret interjected gently, a month is reasonable. Lily won't mind waiting. I mind, Ryan cut her off, then softened his tone. I've already made her wait a year. I don't want her sleeping in a room that feels temporary any longer than necessary. Thomas considered. I could bring in a larger crew, work longer hours, 2.5 weeks, absolute minimum, but it'll cost extra. I don't care about the cost, Ryan said firmly. When can you start? Tomorrow morning. Perfect. Ryan shook his hand. Send the contract to my assistant. Whatever you need, you'll have it. After the contractor left, Margaret touched Ryan's arm. You don't have to rush everything. Yes, I do. Ryan watched Lily toddle around the living room, exploring every corner with fearless curiosity. Every day she doesn't have her own space here is a day she might think she doesn't really belong. I can't let her feel that way. She's 1 year old. She doesn't think in those terms yet. But someday she will, and when that day comes, I want her to have a lifetime of memories that prove this is her home, that she was always wanted here. Ryan's jaw set in that determined way Margaret recognized. I'm playing catch-up, and I hate being behind. Margaret smiled despite herself. You know, Sarah used to say that once you committed to something, you were impossible to stop. She wasn't wrong. The afternoon progressed with the controlled chaos that had become their new normal. Lily needed a snack, which somehow resulted in applesauce in places applesauce should never be. Claire practiced her spelling words while simultaneously teaching Lily to count to 3. Ryan fielded work calls while changing Lily's outfit for the 3rd time that day. Victoria called around 4 p.m. Ryan, I need your approval on the Tech Bridge contract revisions. What's the issue? Ryan wedged the phone between his ear and shoulder while picking up blocks. They want to adjust the payment schedule? Victoria paused. Is that screaming in the background? That's Lily discovering the echo in the bathroom, Ryan said calmly, as joyful shrieks echoed through the apartment. It's been her favorite activity for the past 20 minutes. What about the payment schedule? Victoria laughed. You know what? I'll email you the details. This can wait until the girls are asleep. Victoria, you don't have to. Yes, I do. You put me in charge of operations for a reason. Let me operate. Her voice was warm. Enjoy your daughters. The company will survive without you for a few hours. After hanging up, Ryan found himself staring at the phone in mild shock. 2 weeks ago, he would have dropped everything to discuss contract details. Now, he'd just told his acting CEO to email him later because his daughter was screaming in the bathroom. And he didn't feel guilty about it. Progress, he murmured to himself. Dinner was an adventure. Margaret had taught Ryan how to make Lily's favorite meal, chicken cut into tiny pieces, steamed broccoli and rice. But Lily was in a mood, rejecting everything except the rice, which she wanted to eat with her hands despite having a perfectly good spoon. No, she declared when Ryan tried to give her broccoli. No, no, no! Lily, you loved broccoli yesterday, Ryan said with exaggerated patience. No! How about one bite? For Daddy? No! Claire giggled. She's just like you, Daddy. Grandma says you used to hate vegetables too. Traitor, Ryan muttered, but he was smiling. He gave up on the broccoli and let Lily feast on rice, mentally adding consult pediatrician about nutrition to his growing list of parenting concerns. After dinner came bath time, which Ryan had finally started to master. He'd learned the hard way that Lily loved splashing, that bubbles were mandatory, and that rubber ducks were serious business. Tonight, she insisted on lining up all 6 ducks in a perfect row before she'd allow him to wash her hair. Are we doing duck parade again? Ryan asked, kneeling beside the tub. Duck! Lily agreed enthusiastically, carefully positioning each toy. Claire joined them, sitting on the bathroom floor. "Can I help?" "You can be in charge of the towel," Ryan said, grateful for her involvement. He'd worried about Claire feeling displaced by Lily's arrival, but his older daughter seemed genuinely thrilled to have a sister. She helped without being asked, showed endless patience with Lily's toddler antics, and glowed every time someone called them twins. Watching them together, Claire making silly faces to keep Lily entertained, while Ryan carefully rinsed shampoo from her hair, Ryan felt that now familiar tightness in his chest. This was his family. Messy, chaotic, perfect. "Daddy," Claire said suddenly, her voice serious, "do you think Mommy knows about Lily? About all of this?" Ryan's hands stilled. Margaret, who'd been straightening the bathroom, froze in the doorway. "I think she does," Ryan said carefully. "I think Mommy planned all of this. She wanted us to be together, to be a family. But why didn't she tell you before? About Lily?" It was the question Ryan had wrestled with for 2 weeks. He'd been angry at first, at Sarah for keeping the secret, at Margaret for maintaining it, at himself for being the kind of man who'd needed to be tested. But gradually, he'd come to understand. "Because Mommy loved us very much," Ryan explained, choosing his words carefully. "She knew I was very sad after she died. And she was worried I wouldn't be able to take care of a baby while I was so sad. So she asked Grandma to help until I was ready. Are you ready now?" Ryan looked at Lily, who was making one of her ducks swim through the bubbles, completely content in her small world. "I'm getting there, sweetheart. Every day I'm getting there." Claire seemed satisfied with that answer. She helped wrap Lily in a fluffy towel and carried her favorite pajamas, the ones with stars on them, to the bedroom. That night, for the first time, Lily fell asleep in Ryan's arms during story time. Not Margaret's arms, Ryan's. She'd been fighting sleep for 20 minutes, her eyes drooping closed and then jerking open as she tried to stay awake. But halfway through Goodnight Moon, she finally surrendered, her small body going limp against his chest, her breathing evening out into the gentle rhythm of sleep. Ryan didn't move. Ryan didn't even breathe too deeply, afraid of waking her. Margaret stood in the doorway with tears streaming down her face, pulling out her phone to capture the moment. "First time," she mouthed silently. Ryan nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. This tiny human, this miracle who'd fought her way into existence against impossible odds, trusted him enough to sleep in his arms. After 2 weeks of patience and presence, of showing up even when he fumbled, of learning her rhythms and respecting her boundaries, she'd chosen him. He sat there for another 30 minutes, just holding her, memorizing the weight of her, the smell of her baby shampoo, the way her little fist curled against his shirt. Claire had already fallen asleep in her own bed across the hall. Margaret had quietly cleaned up the bathroom and was now reading in the living room, giving Ryan this moment. When he finally stood to lay Lily in the crib, temporary until her real room was ready, she stirred slightly but didn't wake. Ryan carefully tucked her favorite rabbit beside her, pulled the blanket up to her chin, and stood watching her sleep for another few minutes. "Good night, little miracle," he whispered. "Sweet dreams." In the living room, Margaret was wiping her eyes when he emerged. "Sarah would be so proud of you," she said quietly. "I'm just trying to be what they need. You're succeeding." Margaret gathered her things. She still went home to Queens most nights, maintaining her own space while they all adjusted. "Same time tomorrow?" "Actually," Ryan said, pulling out his phone to show her an email, "the contract came through on the Henderson apartment. We close next week. If you're still willing, we could start planning the move." Margaret's eyes widened. "That fast?" "I told you, I don't like being behind." Ryan smiled. "Your furniture, your things, your space, but closer. So you don't have to commute every day, so the girls can see you whenever they want. So we can really be a family. Ryan Mitchell, you are full of surprises. I've had 4 years of being predictable, Ryan said. Time for something different. After Margaret left, Ryan stood in his quiet apartment, well, relatively quiet, given the evidence of children everywhere, and felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Contentment. Not the adrenaline rush of closing a deal or the satisfaction of a successful acquisition. Just simple, profound contentment with exactly where he was and what he was doing. His phone buzzed with work emails, contract revisions, meeting requests, strategic decisions waiting for his input. All of it could wait until tomorrow. Tonight belonged to this moment, this feeling, this life he was building from the ashes of his grief. Ryan checked on both girls one more time before heading to his own room. Claire slept sprawled across her bed, surrounded by stuffed animals. Lily was exactly as he'd left her, peaceful and safe. His daughters, both of them. He thought about Sarah's letter, which he'd read probably 50 times since Margaret had given it to him. Give him time to heal, she'd written, then give him a reason to live again. Mission accomplished, Sarah, he thought. Mission very much accomplished. 3 weeks into their new life, Ryan received a call that made his blood run cold. Mr. Mitchell? The voice was professional, female, unfamiliar. This is Patricia Donovan from Child Protective Services. We need to schedule a meeting regarding your daughters, Claire and Lily Mitchell. Ryan's heart stopped. What? Why? We received a complaint about the circumstances of Lily's birth and your lack of presence in her first year of life. Standard procedure requires us to investigate any reported concerns about child welfare. A complaint from whom? I'm not at liberty to disclose that information. Can you come to our offices tomorrow at 10 a.m? Please bring Margaret Walsh as well. After she hung up, Ryan stood frozen in his office, panic rising. Someone had reported him. Why? He'd been doing everything right, following Margaret's instructions, learning Lily's needs, transforming his entire life to be the father she deserved. Who would try to take his daughters away? Victoria knocked and entered. Ryan, you look like you've seen a ghost. CPS, he managed. Someone reported me to Child Protective Services. What? That's insane. On what grounds? Apparently, the fact that I didn't know Lily existed for her first year is suspicious. Ryan's hands shook as he grabbed his phone to call Margaret. They want to investigate whether I'm fit to have custody. Victoria's expression hardened. Get the best family lawyer in New York, now. I'll handle everything here. Go take care of your family. The next 24 hours were a blur of frantic preparation. Ryan hired Catherine Wu, a family law attorney with a reputation for being brilliant and ruthless. She arrived at his apartment that evening with a briefcase full of documents and a no-nonsense attitude. Tell me everything, Catherine said, settling at the dining table while Margaret made tea and tried to keep the girls occupied in the other room. Start from the beginning. Leave nothing out. Ryan explained it all. Sarah's death, the hidden pregnancy, Margaret's year raising Lily, the test in the park, the past 3 weeks of building their family. Catherine took notes rapidly, occasionally interrupting with sharp questions. Do you have Sarah's letter? She asked, the one explaining her wishes. Yes, I have it. Ryan retrieved it from his wallet. Catherine read it carefully, then nodded. This helps. It establishes that Sarah's intent was always for you to eventually have custody, that Margaret was acting as a guardian, not a kidnapper. What about medical records for Lily? I have everything, Margaret said, producing a folder. Every doctor's visit, every vaccination, every milestone check, all properly documented. Financial records? Can you prove you've been supporting the child? I've been paying Margaret a monthly amount to cover all of Lily's expenses, Ryan said. I can show bank transfers going back 3 weeks. Catherine's eyebrow rose. Only 3 weeks? I only found out about her 3 weeks ago. That's going to be a problem, Catherine said bluntly. CPS will want to know why you didn't provide support before then, and why Margaret didn't seek it. Because Sarah's insurance and my support to Margaret covered everything, Margaret explained. I never needed to file for formal child support because I was voluntarily caring for her. But there's no legal documentation of that arrangement, Catherine pointed out. No formal guardianship agreement, no court-approved custody plan. From CPS's perspective, you had a child you didn't know about being raised by her grandmother with no legal oversight. That's exactly the kind of situation they're trained to investigate. Ryan felt sick. So what do? We go in tomorrow, with every piece of evidence we have. Birth certificates, medical records, financial documents, character witnesses. We show them that yes, the situation was unusual, but everything was done in the child's best interest, and we pray the investigator is reasonable. That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. He kept imagining someone taking Lily away, putting her in foster care while they investigated. Kept seeing Claire's face when she'd have to say goodbye to the sister she'd just found. Kept thinking about how he'd failed Sarah by becoming the kind of man who needed to be tested, and now might fail her again by losing both their daughters. At 2 a.m., he gave up on sleep and went to check on the girls. Both were peaceful, unaware of the storm coming. Ryan sat on the floor between their rooms, his back against the wall, and made a silent promise. Whatever it took, however he had to fight, he would not let anyone separate this family. The CPS offices were located in a bland government building in Lower Manhattan. Patricia Donovan turned out to be a woman in her 40s, with kind eyes but a serious demeanor. She led Ryan, Margaret, and Catherine into a conference room filled with filing cabinets and harsh fluorescent lighting. "Thank you for coming," Patricia said, arranging files on the table. "I want to assure you, Mr. Mitchell, that our goal isn't to separate families. It's to ensure children are safe and cared for properly." "My daughters are both safe and cared for," Ryan said firmly. "I can prove that. I'm sure you can. But you understand why we have concerns? A child was born, apparently as a twin, and the father had no knowledge of her existence for a year. That's highly unusual." Catherine leaned forward. "Ms. Donovan, if you'll allow me to present the full context." For the next hour, they laid out everything. Sarah's letter, which Patricia read 3 times, Margaret's medical documentation, Ryan's recent changes at work, the contractor's plans for Lily's room, character references from Ryan's employees, Claire's teacher, even Dr. Harrison, who'd been treating both girls. Patricia listened carefully, asking occasional questions. "Mr. Mitchell, why didn't you question your mother-in-law's absence from your life after your wife's funeral?" "I was drowning in grief," Ryan admitted. "I shut everyone out. It was wrong, but it's the truth." "And Ms. Walsh, why didn't you seek formal custody through the courts?" "Because I was following my daughter's wishes," Margaret said steadily. "Sarah asked me to wait until Ryan was ready. I honored that. Even though it meant operating outside legal frameworks? I never thought of it that way. Lily was always safe, always loved, always cared for. Isn't that what matters most?" Patricia made notes. "And the incident in the park, you deliberately placed a baby in the rain as a test." Margaret winced. "When you put it like that, it sounds terrible, but I was there the entire time watching. Lily was never in danger. I needed to see if Ryan had become the man he needed to be." "That's not your decision to make," Patricia said sharply. "You don't get to test people with children's safety." "You're right," Margaret said quietly. "It was wrong. But I'd do it again, because it worked. It brought our family back together." The interview continued for another hour. Patricia asked about Ryan's work schedule, his childcare plans, his support system. She wanted to know about Claire's adjustment to having a sister, about Lily's developmental milestones, about their plans for education and health care. Finally, she closed her folder. I'm going to make a recommendation to the court that the current custody arrangement continue with some conditions. Ryan's heart leapt. Conditions? Formal legal guardianship papers need to be filed immediately. Both children should be enrolled in a consistent preschool program. I want monthly check-ins for the next 6 months. And Ms. Walsh, you need to establish legal grandparent visitation rights. No more informal arrangements. Done, Catherine said immediately. We can have all of that filed by the end of the week. Patricia stood. Mr. Mitchell, I have to tell you, this is one of the stranger cases I've encountered, but I don't see any evidence of malice or neglect. What I see is a family trying to honor a dying woman's wishes and figure out how to move forward. That being said, her expression hardened, if you ever use a child to test someone again, Ms. Walsh, I will personally ensure you lose custody. Are we clear? Crystal clear, Margaret said, chastened. And Mr. Mitchell, the next 6 months are crucial. You need to prove this isn't just a phase, that you're committed to being a present, active parent. Any backsliding, any hints that you're prioritizing work over your daughters, and we'll be having a very different conversation. You have my word, Ryan said firmly. My daughters are my priority. Everything else is secondary. Patricia nodded. Then we're done here, for now. You'll hear from us within a week about the formal recommendation. Outside the building, Ryan felt like he could finally breathe again. Catherine patted his shoulder. That went about as well as could be expected. She was tough but fair. Who reported us? Ryan asked suddenly. Who would do this? Catherine's expression turned grim. I have a theory, but we'll need to do some digging. In the meantime, let's focus on getting that legal paperwork filed. The faster we establish formal custody, the stronger your position. The answer came 2 days later when Catherine called with news. It was Diane Bruckner, your former assistant from 4 years ago. Ryan frowned. Diane? Why would she care about my family situation? Apparently, she saw a photo of you with the girls on LinkedIn. Someone from your office posted it. She'd been at the hospital the night Sarah died and remembered you only had one baby. She put 2 and 2 together and decided something suspicious was happening. She cost us 3 days of hell because she saw a photo. Ryan's anger flared. She thought she was protecting a child, Catherine said, misguided but not malicious. The good news is that CPS now understands the full situation. The bad news is that we're under scrutiny. You need to be absolutely perfect for the next 6 months. Ryan looked around his apartment, now wonderfully chaotic with toys and books and evidence of children everywhere. At Margaret, who was reading to both girls on the couch. At his daughters, who were completely unaware of how close they'd come to being separated. Perfect I can do, he said quietly. For them, I can be perfect. 6 months later, Ryan sat in Patricia Donovan's office for their final check-in. The room hadn't changed. Same filing cabinets, same harsh lighting, but everything else had. Ryan wore jeans and a casual sweater instead of a suit. He'd learned that comfortable clothes were better for chasing toddlers. His hair was slightly longer, less rigidly styled. He looked, Margaret had told him approvingly, like a dad instead of a CEO. So, Mr. Mitchell, Patricia said, reviewing her files. Let's go through the checklist. Legal custody papers? Filed and approved 3 months ago, Ryan confirmed. Joint custody with Margaret serving as legal guardian in case of emergency, all properly documented. Preschool enrollment? Both girls are at Little Sprouts Montessori. Same class, different learning groups. They're thriving. Ryan pulled out his phone to show photos. Claire's reading at a 2nd grade level now. Lily knows all her colours and is starting to count to 20. Patricia smiled despite herself. Monthly progress reports from the school? All submitted to your office as required. Ryan had become meticulous about documentation. Every achievement, every doctor's visit, every milestone was recorded and filed. Not just for CPS, but because he'd learned that capturing these moments mattered. Work-life balance? I'm still executive chairman, but Victoria handles most operations. I work from home 3 days a week. I haven't missed a school event or doctor's appointment in 6 months. Family therapy sessions. Every 2 weeks, Dr. Ramirez has been amazing helping Claire process everything, and she's given me tools for talking to the girls about Sarah, about grief, about our unconventional family structure. Patricia made check marks on her form. And Ms. Walsh's living situation. She moved into the apartment down the hall 4 months ago. The girls see her every day, but they understand my apartment is their primary home. It's worked beautifully. Patricia set down her pen. I've reviewed everything, the school reports, the therapist's notes, the pediatrician's updates. I have to say, Mr. Mitchell, I'm impressed. 6 months ago, you were a workaholic who'd never changed a diaper. Now you're, she gestured at him, this. A dad, Ryan supplied. Now I'm a dad. A good one from all accounts. Patricia closed her file. I'm recommending case closure. You've met every requirement and then some. Your daughters are happy, healthy, and clearly loved. Whatever unusual path brought you here, you've made it work. Relief flooded through Ryan. Thank you. You have no idea what this means. I think I do. Patricia stood, offering her hand. But Mr. Mitchell, a word of advice. Don't let your guard down. Being a parent doesn't get easier. The challenges just change. Stay present. Keep showing up. Don't let work pull you back into old patterns. I won't, Ryan promised. I finally understand what matters. That evening, Ryan organized a celebration dinner at his apartment. Margaret, of course, and also Victoria, Catherine Wu, Dr. Ramirez, and even Dr. Harrison, the people who'd helped them through the hardest 6 months of transition and scrutiny. The apartment was now completely transformed. Lily's room had been finished months ago, a beautiful space with a painted night sky, shelves full of books, and photos of Sarah everywhere, so she'd always know her mother. Claire's room had been updated too, made more age-appropriate for a growing 7-year-old. The living room had been redesigned to be kid-friendly while still elegant. It was no longer a showcase apartment. It was a home. To family, Ryan said, raising his glass as the adults gathered in the kitchen while the girls played in the other room. To the people who fought for us, believed in us, and helped us become who we needed to be. To family, everyone echoed. Margaret touched his arm. Sarah would be so proud. You know that, right? I hope so. Ryan looked through the doorway where Claire was teaching Lily a clapping game, both of them giggling. I think about her every day, about what she sacrificed to give me this chance. She didn't see it as sacrifice, Dr. Ramirez said gently. She saw it as gift. The letter made that clear. She wanted you to heal so you could be present. You've honored that beautifully. Later, after the guests had left and the girls were in their pajamas, Ryan gathered everyone in the living room for story time. It had become their nightly ritual, all 4 of them, because Margaret always stayed for this part. What story tonight? Ryan asked. Moon story, Lily shouted. Her vocabulary had exploded in recent months. She now spoke in short sentences and had opinions about everything. We read the moon story last night, Lily Bean, Claire said. How about the one with the caterpillar? No, moon. How about, Ryan interjected diplomatically, we read the caterpillar story now, and Grandma reads the moon story at bedtime. Best of both worlds. Both girls considered this and agreed. Ryan read The Very Hungry Caterpillar with his usual dramatic flair, making munching sounds for each food the caterpillar ate. Lily participated enthusiastically, shouting out the food names before Ryan could read them. Claire corrected his pronunciation when he deliberately mispronounced words to make them laugh. After the story, Claire snuggled into Ryan's side. Daddy, I have a question. What's that, sweetheart? Is Lily always going to live with us? Forever and ever? Ryan's heart clenched. Yes, always. Why do you ask? Because Jordan at school said his brother used to live with them, but now he doesn't, because his parents got divorced. I don't want Lily to leave. Lily's not going anywhere, Ryan said firmly. She's your sister. She belongs here with us, with you, forever and ever. Promise? Promise. Ryan kissed the top of her head. You're stuck with each other. Even when you're grown-ups with your own houses, you'll still be sisters. That never changes. And good, Claire said, satisfied, because I like having a baby sister, even if she is annoying sometimes with all her crying. Hey! Lily protested, understanding enough to know she'd been insulted. Margaret laughed. I think that's the most honest thing I've heard all day. Sisters love each other, but they're also allowed to find each other annoying. It's the rule. Did you and Mommy find each other annoying? Claire asked. Oh, absolutely, Margaret said with a smile. Sarah used to borrow my clothes without asking, and I'd get so mad, but I'd also give her my last dollar if she needed it. That's what family means, annoying and loving at the same time. Like Daddy when he makes me eat vegetables, Claire said sagely. Exactly like that, Ryan agreed. After tucking both girls into bed, Lily with her worn rabbit, Claire with a new book she was excited to start reading tomorrow, Ryan and Margaret sat on the couch with cups of tea. 6 months, Margaret marveled. It feels like 6 years. And 6 minutes, Ryan added. Time is weird with kids. Are you happy, Ryan? Truly happy? He considered the question. 6 months ago, he would have said he was content. 3 weeks into this new life, he'd been overwhelmed but determined. Now, I'm happy, he said simply. More than I've been since before Sarah died. Maybe more than ever, actually. I didn't know life could be this full. Full is a good word for it. Margaret smiled. Full of chaos and joy and tiny socks that disappear in the dryer and chicken nugget negotiations and spontaneous dance parties. Sarah wanted this for you. For all of you. I wish she could see it. Who says she can't? Margaret's eyes twinkled. I talk to her sometimes, tell her about the girls, about you. I think she knows. Maybe not in a logical way, but in the way that mothers always know their children are okay. Ryan thought about Sarah's letter, now framed on his dresser, where he saw it every morning. Her final gift to him, time to grieve, and then a reason to heal. She'd orchestrated all of this from beyond death, trusting Margaret to execute the plan, trusting him to eventually rise to the occasion. Thank you, Ryan said suddenly, for everything, for raising Lily, for testing me even though it was crazy, for believing I could be better. You don't need to thank me. You did the work, you showed up, you changed. Margaret paused, though I am sorry about the whole CPS nightmare. That wasn't supposed to happen. It worked out, and honestly it forced us to formalize everything properly. We needed that structure. They sat in comfortable silence, two people who'd lost someone they loved, but found a way to honor her memory through the family they'd built. The apartment was quiet, except for the gentle hum of the city outside and the faint sound of Lily singing herself to sleep in her room. Ryan's phone buzzed with an email from Victoria. The TechBridge merger had closed successfully, under budget and ahead of schedule. A year ago, that would have been the highlight of his month. Now it was just a footnote in his day, important, but not urgent. Not compared to the fact that Claire had learned a new reading strategy at school, or that Lily had successfully used the potty twice today. His priorities had shifted so completely that he barely recognized his former self, that man who'd worked 18-hour days and measured success in stock prices and quarterly earnings. He felt like a stranger now. This man, the one who knew the words to every Sesame Street song and could French braid Claire's hair, and had opinions about which brand of diapers had the best absorption, this was who he was supposed to be all along. I should go, Margaret said, standing. Early morning tomorrow. Lily has her art class and Claire has soccer. I remember. I'll have them ready. Ryan walked her to the door. Same time tomorrow for dinner. Wouldn't miss it. Margaret hugged him. Sleep well, Ryan. You've earned it. After she left, Ryan did his final rounds. Checked on both girls one more time, tidied the living room, laid out tomorrow's clothes, prepped breakfast supplies. The mundane tasks of parenthood that once seemed impossible now felt like meditation. Each action a small proof that he was here, present, engaged. Before bed, Ryan stopped at his dresser and reread Sarah's letter for probably the 100th time. Tell him I love him. Tell him to be happy. Tell him our girls need him whole, not broken. I'm whole, Ryan whispered to the photograph of Sarah beside the frame. It took a while, and I had to be dragged here kicking and screaming by your mother's crazy plan, but I got there. I'm whole and I'm happy, and our girls are amazing. They have your strength, Sarah, your determination, your joy. He touched the photo gently. Thank you for the second chance, for hiding Lily until I was ready. I didn't understand it at first, but I do now. You knew me better than I knew myself. You always did. The next morning started like every morning now. Lily singing at 6 a.m., followed by her calling, "Daddy, Daddy, up!" Ryan stumbled to her room, lifted her from the crib, and was rewarded with a tight hug and a wet kiss on his cheek. "Morning, Daddy." "Morning, sweetheart. Ready to start the day?" "Yeah. Pancakes?" "Pancakes sound perfect." Claire emerged from her room, rubbing her eyes. "Is Lily singing again?" "She's practicing for her concert," Ryan said solemnly. "The Lily Mitchell World Tour starts in the kitchen." Both girls giggled. They headed to the kitchen together, Ryan carrying Lily, Claire skipping ahead. The morning sun streamed through the windows of the apartment, casting everything in golden light. Outside, the city was waking up, millions of people starting their days with their own routines and rituals. But in this moment, in this home, Ryan Mitchell had everything he needed. 2 daughters who looked at him with trust and love, a mother-in-law who'd become a partner in parenting, a career that served his life instead of consuming it, and the memory of a woman who'd loved him enough to save him from himself. As he mixed pancake batter while Lily helped by making a mess with flour and Claire set the table, Ryan realized something profound. This ordinary morning chaos was the extraordinary life Sarah had wanted for him. Not measured in success or achievements, but in presence and love and showing up for the small moments that actually mattered. "Daddy, you're smiling really big," Claire observed. "Am I?" "Yeah, like this." Lily mimicked an exaggerated smile. "I guess I am," Ryan admitted, "because I'm happy right here, right now with both of you. This is exactly where I want to be." "Silly Daddy," Lily said affectionately, patting his face with a flour-covered hand. "Yeah," Ryan agreed, laughing as he wiped flour from his nose. "Silly, lucky Daddy." They ate breakfast together as morning light filled the room. They talked about the day ahead, art class and soccer, playground time and story hour. They made plans and told jokes and spilled juice and laughed. They were loud and messy and perfectly imperfect. They were a family. And as Ryan looked at his daughters, both of them, his miracles, his second chances, he sent up a silent thank you to Sarah for this incredible, chaotic, beautiful life, for knowing what he needed, even when he didn't, for loving him enough to wait until he was ready. He was ready now, finally, completely ready. And he was never taking this for granted again.